Welcome to a brand new Corn Nation Overreaction. We are live on a Sunday night on the Corn Nation YouTube, Facebook, and X platforms. Greg Mahochko, Haas Reuter, and Brady Bunch style up top is Jake. Every game, Jake. Jake, you've got a last name, but I don't know if we've ever actually told people your last name.
That's okay.
You want to share?
Not right now. It's okay. It's not a secret. It's not like I work for the CIA or anything, but
right. You know what? That's exactly what somebody who works for the CIA would say. I don't work for the CIA.
I wouldn't be opposed to doing some, doing
freelance.
Justice
work.
You guys need someone to talk to potential enemies of the United States and maybe employ some advanced interrogation techniques. I don't think I'd have too many qualms about that. But that's not what the show's about. The show is not about advanced interrogation techniques. The show is about Husker football.
Husker football, Nebraska and Michigan State yesterday, and Nebraska comes away with the win. It was not a pretty football game, to say the least, but they do end up turning back the Spartans 38-27. Let's just, we're going to do the 30,000-foot overview. Haas, just quick thoughts on the game in total.
Wind game. You're good for one of those every year in the Big Ten, at least one. I think that's one of the more interesting parts of being in this conference. You're usually going to get 3 or 4 weather games each year, most of them usually later in November. But this time of the year when the seasons are changing, you get those gusty wind days, with winds approaching 30 miles an hour. You got to have a strategy to win those games. And this is a game that past 2 years, we lost to Maryland in 23 in a heavy wind game. Last year, we had a very bowling shoe ugly kind of game against Rutgers when we won 14-7. And this year, against Michigan State, it looked like we were circling the drain down 21-14. And this team found a way to respond. It wasn't pretty, but they kept battling. I think that's a testament to Rule as building a culture and setting the standard here, of standard and expectation of finding a way to win. But there's a lot to get into. You can't ignore in victory what you would not in defeat. You can't overlook in victory what you would find inexcusable in defeat. So we got a lot to talk about, whether it's Dylan Raiola, the offensive line, just whatever issues we saw yesterday. So I'm looking forward to talking about this and seeing what it means for us moving forward the rest of the season.
Jake, how about your initial thoughts to open up the show tonight?
Yeah, I think that Haas nailed it when he's, you can't overlook and not talk about, if we would have lost the game, what would the main pain points be? We did win. And I do think, I said it probably 10 times since the game ended, this is a game we probably would have lost over the past, more times than over the past probably decade. So we did come away with a win. Super obviously happy about that. The disappointment for me, which we're going to get into in detail, obviously all of us, but and the chat too, obviously. And thanks everyone for being here. It's the disappointment is not in the score, not in the fact that I think that Michigan State is not a good team. I think they are a pretty good team. We won by double digits. It's certain specific pain points I think that we need to discuss. And I was a little coy about some of the offensive line play last week. I'm not going to be so coy this week. So we'll get into all that. But I'm happy we got the win. Double-digit win over a Big Ten opponent. Pretty good opponent. Something to still be happy about.
I want to say, I want to get it out there since we've talked about the conditions. I said this last night at the end, on X at the end of the game, and I said it to you guys. The most important moment, I think, in the game happened at the coin toss when, yes, Nebraska lost the coin toss. Michigan State said, we'll take the ball. And Matt Rule had it pegged to rights as he said, we want to make sure that in the fourth quarter, we're going that way. Mm-hmm. And when you look at Nebraska's offensive production in the first and fourth quarters, it's completely opposite of how they were in the second and third quarters when they were playing, going at the wind. So I don't know. It's on the field, yes, but it's not within the confines of the game. But I think that was a moment where I don't know if this phrase is overused, but Matt Rule was playing chess and Michigan State was playing checkers.
Absolutely. I mean, Rule said it after his first year in the conference when he did an interview in January or February of 2024 that the most important thing he learned in his first year in the Big Ten was don't overlook the wind. And you saw that Maryland game in 23. And as you were mentioning that, I thought of the Iowa game in 23 when Iowa won the coin toss, and they decided to just take the wind in the fourth quarter. And that was the difference in a game where we missed a field goal because we were going against the wind, and they made one after a long Caleb Johnson run. So I think playing that chess, not checkers, as you said, is something that comes into overall game management. That's an area where, I'll be honest, Rule is lacking on in-game management. Love him as a spokesman of the program. Love what he's doing to build a program. But there's some areas that yesterday kind of illustrated how far he still has to go. I'm not saying that we need to fire him. I'm not saying he's not the guy. I'm just saying that in-game management and as an X's and O's tactician is not his forte. He's kind of more like a James Franklin, as an overall program builder. And I see your facial expression. Yeah, Penn State lost to UCLA, but come on, we'd kill for Penn State's level of success. So let's not delude ourselves here.
I think it was Matt Brown, maybe. He used to be one of the higher ups, I suppose, at SB Nation.
I met him when Brian passed away.
Yeah, but I think he said something like UCLA has proven that you don't need a head coach, offensive coordinator, or defensive coordinator to win football games. So
yeah, I think Matt Brown's also ignoring the interim surge that occurs when you make a change.
Sure.
A lot of unscattered looks. You don't have tendencies. It's not an excuse for Penn State to lose that game, but I think it illustrates that Penn State, what we've been saying on this show, they're not as strong in the trenches as, say, a Michigan or an Oregon. And so is it an eminently winnable game? I don't know. Like, we go there on the road late November, but I don't think it's, an automatic loss. I mean, if we're playing on our A game, they can be had.
Well, let's briefly, and because it's a few years back, but let's talk about that interim surge, because Nebraska saw that at the end of, I'm going to get my years wrong, 2022 with Mickey Joseph, and so it's not uncommon, it's not unheard of, and everybody was saying, oh, hell, Joseph should have been our head coach the whole time. But like you said, eventually games get put on film and tendencies become tracked, observed, and able to be coached against. So I'm with you, Haas. I love Matt Rule as I don't want to say spokesperson, but since you did, I think he is building us up. There are some in-game tweaks that I would also make.
Yeah, I mean, like I texted you guys today, Matt Rule's already tied Scott Frost's win total at Nebraska in 35 fewer games.
Right.
That he's coached.
That's insane.
It's insane. In two and a quarter seasons, he's done what took Frost 4 1/4 seasons to do. And so looking at that, yesterday, I had to actually remind myself this right after the game because, Jake, you and I were texting during the game.
Yeah.
We were kind of raging. I think at one point in frustration, I called Rule a carny barker. That he's like, barker, come one, come all. I'll own it.
I'll own that too. And I've also been not on the record, but I will be now, is saying, yeah, Rule reminds me of a Carney Barker and Dylan Raiola is his court jester. Like, it feels like that sometimes. And
especially in the fog of war during a game, not to trivialize war, but, like in game when emotions are high, it's, easy to go there. And then I have to remind myself how bad we were when Frost was fired, how devoid of talent we were in 23 when we won 5 games off defense, balls, and guts, basically.
Hey, you owe me a royalty now.
Balls that's your line, balls and guts.
10 cents. Hit me on Venmo.
I'll get you Venmo there, cheap.
The collections. No, I agree, dude. And the thing is like, I almost feel like I was thinking about this today, got a lot of time to think because you're cooking. I do big family dinners, so you have a lot of time to just kind of think and reflect and whatever. And I'm like, man, I'm really this pessimistic for a 4-1 team that's only lost was to a really good Michigan team by 3 points. Like, how spoiled have I gotten in 2 years? Like, Michigan State is a good team. I think they're a really good team, and we won by double digits. Now we have to discuss the obvious, which we're getting to. But we could have probably won by more. I mean, Carter Nelson did not have to block in the back. Did we deserve to be bailed out by a face mask on a 3rd and whatever 30 or whatever it was?
3rd and 27.
End up 4th and 42.
Yep.
No, we did not. No, that result was a result that we earned.
Yep.
But Dylan Raiola did get his helmet ripped off. That should have been a penalty, in my opinion, and should have been a free first down. Again, does that offset the sack? No, but that's football.
I think one of the things, especially because I have some notes on that series where we gave up 3 straight sacks. One of the things on that 3rd and 27, that snap was so bad, and that's a bad snap that we haven't seen this year from Justin
Evans. I don't think we haven't seen a snap like that.
Going back to Cam Jurgens.
I was going to say that. Now the All-Pro Super Bowl champ.
And so when that happened, that just kind of threw off everything. He had to go to the right, towards Gatula to pick up the fumble, the bad snap. Protection broke down, just dissolved. Play never had a chance. But at the end of the day, Big Ten officiating every time, you just never know how they're going to call it. I mean, Michigan State's offensive linemen were getting away with mugging our defensive linemen, holding at the point of attack, illegal hands to the face. They let their receivers or their DBs run up the backs of our receivers, especially like Dane Key on that first drive. And then they're calling it real tight when we're on defense in terms of DPI. And so officiating's not to blame for our woes yesterday. I think largely, pardon the crass expression, but we just couldn't quit tripping over our own dick at a lot of moments.
Well, let's jump into it. So we got a stop on the first drive.
Mm-hmm.
We go down the field and we score.
Yep.
We get a stop on the second drive and we block a punt. Carter Nelson, who, is right there. So you talk about, location. He's right there, picked it up, could have crawled in. I mean, I guess he couldn't because he'd been considered down, but you know what I mean? Like, I almost feel like from where he picked up the ball, I think he picked it up maybe inside the 5 or 10 yard line for sure. And in Walston, Nebraska's up 14-0 and everybody's flying high.
It kind of reminded me of a game, I think back in 2014 against Purdue. We blocked a punt on their first drive. Tommy Armstrong runs it in on a zone read on the first play. We go up 7-0. We block a punt again on their second drive. I think it was Kyron Williams. Kyron, I forget how he pronounced his name. The safety out of Shreveport, Louisiana. He blocks a punt. We go up 14-0. And what's weird about being a Husker fan is when those moments happen, you want to be like, oh, fast start. We're rolling. We're going to just splatter these guys all over the field. What ends up happening is your offense gets out of rhythm because they're sitting for so long. And we saw it happen yesterday. So when these kind of things happen in a game to us, I always feel like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Okay, almost wish that punt wouldn't have been blocked, that we could have gotten into a rhythm offensively and kept it rolling, kept that positive momentum going.
So I've seen a lot of this on the Husker Twitterverse or Xverse, whatever it is now, and people like, well, if it wasn't for the block punt, the game would have been closer. If it wasn't. The thing is, we Husker fans like to be, romanticize the past. Yeah, I do. I'm guilty of it. Was anyone talking about that when Nebraska beat the first time Osborne beat Oklahoma? What was that, Haas, 78?
78.
Okay. Heavily favored OU, right? They were really good.
They fumbled 6 times that day.
6 times. Were Husker fans, I mean, yeah, we'd have the internet back then, obviously, and you weren't, but like, oh, well, the only reason we won was because OU No. Can we be happy that we won the game and our special teams looked really good? Punting, right. I get punting didn't look good. Also, the wind was a factor. Not going to really go crazy over
It's
that.
an entire third of the game, Special teams is an entire third of the game if you're going to divide it into thirds. Being able to execute at a high level on special teams probably wins us a couple more games last year and a couple more games in 23. So this weird rationalization from Husker fans, it's like sometimes it's like false modesty. It's like, just take the comment and move on.
And I was talking to this. Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
I was going to say, it could have bin much worse too. Deshaun Singleton had 2 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we, why that false modesty? Why are we being bashful? I guess it's that Nebraska niceness. We're being, we're so used to just, oh shucks, guys, we pulled one out.
Yeah,
like, it could have easily gone the other way. And Austin, you said at the beginning, credit this team because this is not a situation. This is not a game that they win in previous years.
Well, yeah, now we've seen that at a couple of points this season. Cincinnati, everyone's talking, oh, we should have blown them out. We beat a really good Cincinnati team, one that just beat Iowa State. One that legitimately might contend for a Big 12 championship. They'll probably get beat by Texas Tech, who's looking downright scary at this point. But at the same time, I think, Jake, you brought it up, romanticizing the past. Oh, we're not beating people like we did in 95. Well, it's not 1995 anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fred. I'm not singling you out, but your Zubaz pants aren't in style. I'm using you as an example here from Monday.
Real quick, Haas, quick. Can I just hold your train of thought? I want to talk about Monday's show a little bit because I want to address a couple things with the picture that was shared to me. There was one, I know that not everyone a lot of you guys tune into all the shows, but the picture that was shared to me when I was actually 16 in that picture. People were saying, one, I dye my hair because my hair is much darker now. No, I do not dye my hair nor my beard. And 2, yes, I had a Bieber-ish hairstyle. Okay, Justin Bieber was very popular. Huh?
It was the style.
It was the style back then, okay? Like, Minnie said it was kind of hippie-ish. I was a little hippie-ish. I definitely indulged in some hippie substances at the time when I was in high school. So anyway, I wanted to make 2 things clear right now. 1, I'm going to defend my hairstyle. It was pretty slick for the time. 2, no, I do not dye my hair nor my beard. Haas, continue with your thought, brother. I'm sorry.
No, perfect. Yeah, and I'd like on the record, I don't dye my beard either, unlike what Minnie asked me that time as well.
Yeah.
Clearly, I don't either. So.
This romanticization, I don't even know if I said that phonetically accurate, of the past, it's like we didn't win that way. It's like, who cares? In today's day and age, you just take the win, however you can get it. And looking at Michigan State, that's a team where it's like they have some nice pieces. They have some really nice pieces. I was fairly impressed with Childs, his mobility, getting them in and out of plays. Maybe it's a good thing their backup didn't start the game because, he was dicing it all over the place. But at the same time, this is not Purdue, some hapless Purdue team that we got into a dogfight with. This is a Michigan State team that recruits at a fairly high level. I think Jonathan Smith's a pretty good coach. Joe Rossi, their defensive coordinator, he was at Minnesota with PJ Fleck, when they kind of started their rebound 2018, 2019, 2020. And so 38-27, and I think Husker fans would feel a whole lot better if it was 38-21. And we didn't allow that late score, but it played out pretty similarly score-wise, just on paper, to what I said for a prediction of 41-24. I just thought we'd see better, crisp offensive execution to get to the 41.
Yeah, I agree with that. All points. Nothing to add.
I'm just, since you brought it up, Haas, I'm just pulling up our score predictions for the Michigan State game. And wouldn't you know, my laptop's taking its sweet time. Let's see. Nope, that is not the right doc. Damn it. All right. Not everybody talk at once. Ready to go.
I don't even remember what I had.
I had 41-24.
It's loaded. Sorry, I loaded the wrong one. You had 41-24. Jake, you initially had 30-24, but you bumped it up to 48-21. I had 45-27. So
Wow.
I was one score off.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
I just thought we'd tear them up a little bit more than we did. With their pass defense, statistically, what I didn't account for was what I think may be our next topic, boys. The effectiveness of Michigan State's pass rush against our pass rush capabilities, defending that.
You mean our protection? Our protection,
is what I our pass pro. Sorry, I said that like really weirdly. That was the factor that I did not account for in my prediction. So I don't want to talk about anything else before that, but that's something we're not going to get out of this show without discussing.
No, and I think it's something that has to be talked about because it's the elephant in the room. We'll start from the top. Elijah Pritchett starting at left tackle, Gatula at right tackle. And we gave up, 5 sacks? 5 or 6 sacks total?
I know it was at least 4. I think it was it 5?
I think it was
5 for 35.
Yeah, so this was a team that had 6 for the entire year coming into yesterday. And I'm not going to put all the blame on the offensive line here. I'm going to get there eventually, but I'm going to talk about a few other things I think contributed to it. The wind was something that did contribute to it. I think it made Dylan hesitant to pull the trigger on some throws. I also think that our receivers, you really saw them kind of struggle to get separation at times. Dane Key was a non-factor yesterday. And for somebody that we're paying $800,000 a year, and I don't care if somebody else in the comments or you guys say, well, it's not your money. Well, no, but these guys are professionals at this point.
Nope. Same thing. My barber said the same thing when we were talking about football the last time I went and seen him. And I said something like, we have a good team this year, something like that. And he was like, that's thing. He's not from here. He goes, we. Yeah. I've heard all my guys are Nebraska fans that they say we. And I don't think it's weird, man, but I've never heard anybody refer to there as a fan. Like, did you go there? I'm like, no, I didn't go to UNL or anything. It feels like we're a collective.
Yep.
So to your point about it's not your money, I don't give a shit.
Yep. It's the principle of it.
Now, I will defend Dane Key a little bit here. I do think he's a really good receiver. I saw something on X today that kind of pissed me off. I saw someone kind of dragging him through the mud a little bit and posted his stats at Kentucky and why did we ever think he'd be an elite receiver? Hopefully he doesn't make me look foolish. I do think he's an elite receiver. I think he had a bad day. That's all. I think he had a bad day. He didn't shine, but I think he's shown quite a bit this season. I don't care against lower competition, but I think he's a really, really good player. And I'm not ready to bag him and say that he's not worth the money we're paying him because who knows next week? You don't know. He might have 8 receptions, 140 yards, and 2 touchdowns. We don't know. And he has that ability physically.
To counter your point, I'll say this. I don't think it was just a rough day for him yesterday. I would call it a rough past 2 weeks.
You're right.
Because he was a non-factor against Michigan.
You're right.
He was a non-factor yesterday. He struggled to gain separation underneath, and that probably need to be a bigger point of emphasis in our game plan, the short underneath passing game, controlled, don't let it get caught in the wind. But also with that, we ran a quarterback draw inside the red zone. It was a quarterback draw RPO with Raiola at quarterback. He took it down inside the 5. Dane Key's supposed to be running the slant on the backside, reading the overhang defender for the slant to come in. If the defender comes up on a pass rush, you fit it in the slant. If he sinks to cover wall off the slant, you tuck the ball and run. He didn't even run a slant. He stock blocked the corner. So it's missed assignments like that really get me like, man, we're paying you how much? You can't execute a basic RPO that's in every level of football from 8th grade on up to the NFL. So that's an area that I'm kind of like, all right, man, like I'm not going to give up on you. I'm not going to say we got sold a bill of goods because you look at his stats at Kentucky, they were phenomenal. I do think he's an athletic freak. I think that we've got to find a way, just very similar to Elijah Pritchett, to get him involved, get him focused. And I think it's a little easier for a receiver than it is for a left tackle. So it's not like outside the missed assignment, again when he should have been running the slant route and given up on a route against Michigan. He hasn't really had a lot of mental mistakes. I mean, Pritchett, you saw him kick step 5 yards out of his stance on a false start, where that kind of killed the drive there, killed momentum at least for a little bit. One thing that I really want to press upon about the receiving core, though, is the overall pass design on a windy day. We were trying to set up stuff that was basically going to take too long to develop downfield, with the ball getting caught in the air and a lack of pass protection up front.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of success with long passes. Realistically, we had two, right? We had Isaiah Hunter, and I believe that was the screen for the touchdown, 59 yards. And then Ja'Cory Barney, which I remember watching, and Haas, I know you, and I think you probably both watched the replay again today. It was late in the third quarter, playing into the wind, and the announcer, down a touchdown. It was 21-14 at the time, and the announcer says something like, something's going to have to give, something's going to have to break Nebraska's way to get them out of this. I'm paraphrasing up, but this funk that they're in. And that's when Dylan finds Ja'Cory. I think that was 45 yards. Mm-hmm. That was the play that changed, I think, not just momentum, but probably changed the outcome of the game, because they went and they scored. I think that whole possession was 3, maybe 4 plays. And then they got another stop, and then the quarter changed. They had the wind at their backs, and they put 2 more on the board.
Yeah, like you were talking about the scoring difference with going in against the wind, Bob Seeger in it there, and then having the wind at your back. We outscored them 31-7 with the wind at our back. Yeah. We got outscored 21-7 going into the wind. And that very first play after Ja'Cory Barney's catch off the wheel route, we run duo. Emmett bends it backside where Gatula had a great block. And Key did have a good play here. He cracked the weak safety, kept him from getting into the run fit, and off to the races. He scores. We tie the game. Momentum completely gets flipped at that point. And so I know somebody earlier in the comments, I forget who it was, talked about why we didn't run the ball more.
Boardman.
I think.
That was something that I came away with from the game, where I'm like, man, Emmett ripped him on the same play on the first drive to get deep inside the red zone. And then late in the game, when we had the game in hand, we started going like 2 tight ends, motioning Harburg over, running our counter solid play, just like the guard tackle counter play, except no linemen are pulling, just 2 tight ends are pulling around. And I think, like, seeing that with the run game, like, I think that's kind of the recipe moving forward here, to kind of incorporate, 12 personnel in there. I would have liked to have seen more of an emphasis on the run game yesterday, with the conditions being what they were, and just find a way to, let that offensive line get in-game reps in a situation that demands their execution. Hey, we don't win without you guys going out there and executing. It's nut-cutting time. Put up or shut up.
Yeah, I mean, it did seem to me in those interior quarters, second and third, I would have liked to have seen more rushing attempt. Going back to the one where Dylan got sacked 3 times in a row. You know how you don't get sacked 3 times in a row is by not dropping back to pass 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
That first sack, I will say, Jake and I talked about this a little bit last night. Everyone wants to put it on Pritchett. It was a really good defensive call by Joe Rossi. We were running, it was duo play action. So we're faking the duo play and trying to run a dig shallow concept. And what we're trying to do is get Barney isolated up the sideline for a deep shot for a touchdown after that big punt return he had.
Out of the slot.
Yeah, they crept the weak safety down. They're in cover 3 deep. So corner, safety, corner, just dividing it into thirds. And underneath, the linebackers are playing the hook zones, strong and weak in the middle of the field. That weak safety had no curl flat responsibility to that side. So he's probably coached. We talked about automatic front coverage, AFC, last week. He was probably coached against that formation on the hash. You get to creep down into the box late and either keep backside contain if Emmett bends that play backside on the cutback, or rush the passer if it's, a drop back pass or play action. So with how it happened, Elisha Pritchett had an outside linebacker, the jack linebacker on his left shoulder. He had a 4-eye defensive end on his right shoulder. So the angle would have been almost impossible for him to pick up that weak safety if we would have made a push call. Every man pushes one gap over. And so that happened. And when that happened, it was just one of those moments that is like they overloaded us. They got us. Pritchett, shouldn't be held responsible for that play. It was just a good defensive call. But then the second play, on second down, the sack that he gave up, he just gets dominated by a speed to power rusher. Guy came at him with a speed rush. Pritchett begins to open his hips, get deeper into that kick step, lets the defender right into the cylinder of his body. And I mean, he thumped Pritchett in the chest that literally made him just stand straight up like he was stunned.
Yeah.
He got into
the linebacker, right, Boss?
Yeah, it was the jack linebacker.
Yeah, the position that I played in, and when you experience that as the defender, you almost get up on the tackle like it almost surprises you for a bit because you're like, man, you're really this soft in your protect. You kind of just you just attack him, and that's what that was. That was just like, wow, that was bad.
And to go off that, on the other side, I played some offensive tackle. Going up against a speed rusher coming from depth or just a good speed rusher on the line of scrimmage, it's a terrifying proposition when you're in your kick step and you realize there's no way in hell I can block this.
You
guy.
Can't block him now. Yeah.
He's going to run by me like I'm standing still, or he's going to fake outside speed and then cut back into my chest, the power move. I'm as deep as my quarterback right now. And he hasn't stepped up in the pocket. So I don't put that first one on Pritchett. The second one, I definitely do.
Cannot. Yeah.
Yeah. It was all technique.
It's all, Yep.
But like one of the weird things too, when we're talking about pass protection, I don't know if anyone else noticed it during the game yesterday. Dylan wasn't checking protections at the line of scrimmage. He wasn't adjusting stuff. He wasn't pointing stuff out. It was almost like they just sent him out there with the play call and just told him to snap the ball. It was a strange thing because you contrast that with what we've seen through the first 4 games. And then yesterday it looked like we weren't making any adjustments at the line of scrimmage.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was strange.
Now, is that because they're coming out of the bye and they just had a little bit more? Why wouldn't they? He did. I don't know. I thought Dylan did a pretty good job checking against Michigan, but why did they get away from that? Why did they? Is it because of the wind? I mean, what factors would go against? Or would they use in determining kind of taking that off the table?
The only thing that I could think of would be the wind, and that goes back to, I think I said it in our group chat today. Rule gets ultra conservative in wind games, to the point where it just turns into a slog. Like Jake, you said that was the strangest Husker game you've ever watched.
It was,
and it made me think of how last year's Rutgers game felt the same way, at 14-7 win, and then that Maryland game in 23 when Rule gave up 3 opportunities for a field goal to go for it on 4th down. We didn't get a single one, and we lost 13-10. And so I don't know if it was just like hey, just, don't check into something deep, just keep it controlled. We should be able to overpower these guys. But I noticed it pretty quick that there just wasn't a lot of, sight adjustments going on at the line of scrimmage. And in college football or any level of football, you can't get away with not adjusting stuff. They're not going to line up exactly how you think they're going to line up on the whiteboard.
Not only that, but my very humble opinion is that Dylan is fairly elite at checking at the line.
Yeah.
Why would you not allow him to check at the line?
Yeah. Why would you take away one of his fastballs?
One of his better attributes as a quarterback is his intangibles. And which, by the way, to further, kind of piggyback on last week's show, I don't even know what Dylan's stats were. I admit that. I don't know what he looked like statistically.
Threw for about 194, I believe.
Yep, 16 of 24, 1 interception, 1 touchdown, 194. 194 yards, sacked the 5 times, which we talked about.
Yeah. And okay, so about 200 yards passing, but he also only had 3 drives in the first half, right?
Well, I think at halftime he only had like 24 yards passing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and okay, one was a 60-yard short pass. I don't give a shit. The stats are the stats. It's like the same type of fan that's like, well, if you take out this run, we really weren't that bad against Michigan. No, you have to count those.
You have to count. You can look at it in isolation on what the greater picture, but you have to count them.
They count. And I still think, and maybe my opinion may change as the season goes on, I think Dylan is an elite quarterback. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the country. I do. And I wholeheartedly believe that with my soul and my being, that he's a top 10 quarterback in the country.
What do you think about, while we're talking about Dylan, Pitt says, if we're honest, it's the most off day we've seen from Dylan.
Not going back to last year. You're talking about this season only?
I'm thinking.
Oh, I'd go UCLA by a mile last year.
Yeah, I'm thinking just this year. Just this year.
Oh, yeah.
I agree, 100%. And Pitt Snipe, obviously, awesome. Glad you're here, brother. But no, if we were going to clarify, if it's just this season, 100%. If it's his whole career, no. I'd have to think about it, but UCLA last year comes to mind. I'm sure there's others I'd probably throw in there more so. But, yeah.
You can definitely tell, though, that Dylan was frustrated. I think it was after a false start. He had taken the snap, and when they whistled the play dead, he just took the football and just slammed it in the ground. Like he was pissed. I think Minnie said something, she loves seeing Dylan get pissed. So I like some competitive fire, but kind of rules comment about how Dylan was mad the fans were booing. You make $3 million a year. You're going to have to deal with some blowback. Rules said it best. These guys paid for their tickets and they're paying $12 for a beer. Get over it.
Well,
and if Dylan's tired of getting hit, like Brian Bauer pointed out, and that's a great point here because it was something that I wanted to segue into. The last sack he took, he tapped his chest he's like, it's on me. It's on me. The offensive line did him no favors, but yesterday was a case of he did hold on to the ball too long. He held on to the ball too long at the sake of, protecting his completion percentage. And when I word that way, I'm not saying that he's just concerned with his stats. He's trying to play smart football and put the ball in play or keep the ball in play. But sometimes you got to take some chances and throw a guy open. There was a play yesterday. Ja'Cory Barney was open and he didn't pull the trigger. Goes back to, the saying about it in the NFL. 6 inches is open. Like, sometimes if you're the generational elite talent, and I agree with Jake, he's a top 10 quarterback in the country. I'd even venture to go as far as top 5 quarterback in the country. You're going to have to take some chances and put the ball in play. I can live with an interception if you try to fit it in there and it gets tipped. The defender has just really good leverage. He's in phase with the receiver. Okay, cool. Interceptions aren't this black mark that's going to follow you into the afterlife,
It's not even going to follow you into the NFL. Dan Marino threw
exactly
shitloads of interceptions when he was in college. Yeah, he dropped to the 23rd overall pick or whatever it was in that 83 draft that was legendary with Kelly and those other guys. Yeah. But, dude, Marino was the best quarterback Jim Kelly's Hall of Fame. But, to me, Marino was the best quarterback in that class. And
of all time, in my opinion.
He's the greatest pure thrower of the football of all time. Well, I'm going to throw something weird out here, and I'm guessing most of the chat is going to destroy me for this. But honestly, T-shirt and shorts, Jeff George is probably the greatest quarterback you'll ever, if it's not in an actual pressure game situation.
Oh, yeah. I bet Greg had a Jeff George jersey back in Illinois.
There's cut-ups of Jeff George when he's in the NFL throwing the ball 70 yards in the air on a dime and also throwing that pretty 13-yard, dropping it into the bucket over the shoulder. He was just a head case. But, no, dude, I can live on your point. I'm going to keep this on point. Yeah. On to your point, I can live with the interceptions if you're trying to make a play. He's holding on the ball too long. In my opinion, in respect to the protection that he has and his receivers not getting open.
I would agree with that. I would also say part of it, overall play calling. And thank you, Greg. This is the comment that I wanted to
There we
address.
go. That's what I was basically trying to say right now with my point. That's there you go.
So like Dana calling deep routes that are taking too long given the rush, 100%, Brian. Could not agree more with that. And it's a situation where Dana's not calling his offense. This is schematically still the same offense from Marcus Satterfield over the past 2 years. It's the offense that we tried to install with Sims. Then we had to scrap a lot of it for Harburg and Purdy. It's the offense we saw last year, all the same wrinkles still. At some point, you have to let Dana be Dana. What were his offenses at Oklahoma State and West Virginia the best at? Speed and space, leverage, getting the ball out fast, do a scheme around your flaws. Because at this point in the season, we can all talk about, can the O-line get fixed in season? Can this get fixed in season? You hope that it can, but you are who you are. Like Denny Green said, the Bears are who we thought they were. You are who you are. Your job now is to scheme around your flaws and protect your flaws from getting exploited. And, is that full air raid? I don't know. Rule seems pretty, reluctant to go that route. But, on a day where the conditions are perfect, like Maryland next week, temps in the 70s, winds 2 to 5 miles an hour for the game, might be a full-ass air raid game. Get the ball out fast. Get it to your playmakers. Get it to Isaiah Hunter. Get it to Ja'Cory Barney, Lyndon Meyer. Get it to Emmett Johnson. Just find ways to exploit speed and leverage and find openings, because that offensive line isn't going to suddenly be standing back there protecting on deep play action shots that are the equivalent of doing a 7-step drop in the NFL.
I don't give a shit if we throw the ball 60 times a game, if we're winning games and it's successful. Yeah. I don't care. I also don't care if if Dylan only throws 11 passes in a game and we have to rely on a running back. I don't care what it looks like.
By hook or crook, just get it done.
Just get it done. And there was some good points made earlier in the chat with our running backs on running back carries averaged over 6 yards a carry, and we barely ran the ball. It was kind of weird because we had success running the ball. And it was a win game.
Yep.
I'm kind of perplexed by that. And I'm not going to throw like Dana under the bus and be like, he's an air raid. I'm not going to do that.
But it's adjusting to the conditions and making your decision based on the reality of the situation.
Yeah, it felt weird. What was it? Mekhi Nelson only, I think, had 1 carry for like 12 yards.
Mekhi Nelson got in there and he looked
1 for 11. Yeah.
1 for 11. Yeah. He was like that was a nice shifty run by him. Nice vision it was a run between the tackles, I believe, where he just kind of and then got a first down, fell forward. It was a nice run.
And then when Mosey got his typical change of pace carry, bringing him in, this weird thing with making him an inside runner, like put him on the edge, get him out there on sweeps, screens, find a way to put speed in space. And honestly, I think a big focal point of our game plan moving forward for games needs to be 2-back run game out of the shotgun. You saw what it did against Wisconsin last year when we beat them 44-25. It balances everything. It creates extra gaps. And you're not getting gapped out like you are on that play-action duo play where they overloaded us and got the sack, the first of the 3 sacks in a row. So got to find a way to create extra gaps if you don't have a quarterback that can extend plays with his legs.
Just to that last part of that comment there, Haas, it's almost like you saw the comments here. Tom on Facebook says, I'm not afraid or maybe like air raid with good execution, but have you read the comments still about the need for a running quarterback?
I have. I've seen some of those. I do think that's ultimately the philosophy I think Rule's going to go back to after Dylan's eligibility is done here. You look at Latif, you look at Trey Taylor, I think that's the route that they will go.
Has anyone been keeping up with Trey Taylor's season this year? I mean,
I've read some things, but not committed them to memory.
Haven't watched anything or anything.
Mm-mm.
So I haven't seen anything. I did get best friend of the show, Josh, did send me a stat line from Friday night. That's not the right. Let's see if I know it's up here. I just got to find the right one. Anyway, here we go. Stats on the 4-star commit Trey Taylor: 25 of 36, 505 yards passing, or 505 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 10 rushes for 66 yards and 3 touchdowns.
So
he counted for 8 touchdowns.
So I've been keeping up with them actually quite a bit. I am kind of fairly plugged into the Twitter sphere, X sphere, whatever you want to call it.
Shout out to Josh.
Yeah, by the way, thank you, Josh. Yeah, he looks. If you actually watch what he looks like this year, if you actually see like the eye test and everything, this kid is pretty special. Reminds me a lot. I'm not putting him in the category of this guy, so before everyone loses their minds, he kind of reminds me of Justin Fields as far as the dual threat ability with the big arm and everything like that. And he seems like he could be a really special player at this university coming up. And you know, I'm really thankful to have a kid like that that's really mature, I think, for where he is in high school, to be also peer recruiting, and everything he ever posts is big red and bringing attention to the program and everything. It's awesome. And he looks fantastic. I don't know where he is right now in like the rankings, high school recruiting rankings, but I'd expect that probably to rise a little bit.
He might be a legit 5-star by the time.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't want to, but I'm glad you said it.
Yep.
He could be a 5-star.
Greg, are you aware, like, the competition that he plays at Carmel, is that a big class in Illinois? Is he playing against good competition?
Yeah, it's so Illinois is broken up into 6 classes, 1A through 6A. I believe Carmel Catholic's in the 4 to 5A range. I'm doing a quick search right now. Just kind of give a better idea. So it's up. Mundelein, Illinois is up very close to the Wisconsin border. And trying to get an enrollment. Enrollment's about 1,100.
Okay, so that'd be about like a Class A school here in Nebraska.
Yeah.
But, because of the parochial nature of so they do play, especially up in northern Illinois, they have a lot of, I want to say it's almost like their own like Catholic league. So, it's I don't think I saw this last year when I went to a playoff game here, like around the corner from my house. Althoff Catholic was in the 1A playoffs against a country school by the name of Casey Westfield. But Althoff Catholic had true freshman for Oregon, De'Aaron Mills Jr. De'Aaron Hill Jr., excuse me. And he had 3 touchdowns or more midway through the second quarter, and they went on to win 50-something to 10. It's a different competition up that far north. So I think he's probably playing some fair teams and just showing off his abilities.
I'm a big eye test guy, and I just encourage anybody to go on YouTube, go on whatever, and look at the kid play football. And his game speaks for itself. He's a really special player, I think. So that's the end of that statement.
Yep. Also, we haven't touched on defense yet.
Yeah.
I thought we held Michigan State to what? Under 100 rushing yards? Right around 100?
I've got that for you right here. They net, if I'm looking at this right, net 84 yards.
Okay, so as much as I disagree about sack yardage being taken out of rushing totals, I think that should be a separate statistic assessed entirely. Held them, 70 yards under their average? They're averaging 154 yards a game. That was my big concern coming into this game. Could our D-line stack up against their run game? Other than that, I thought our secondary did a great job in coverage. And then I was really impressed with some of the emergence of Elijah Judy made a splash play on a sack. He's starting to settle in a little bit. I thought Riley Van Poppel started to look like he was settling in. Winieri, I think, is developing into a guy that opposing offensive coordinators are going to have to game plan around. Taking him a little bit to get going. Also took Randy Gregory until about this time of the year to get going back in 2013. He'd make some plays. You'd see him get after the quarterback just with pressures, but he didn't have a big impact on games. And then in the last 2/3 of the season, he really took off. Javen Wright, I thought, played a great game yesterday. And then Deshaun Singleton. I mean, holy shit. Man was playing like he was possessed.
Yeah. And, because of his efforts, I don't want to say just him, but no, he was a big reason why Nebraska was even in the game late in the third quarter. By any right, Nebraska should have been down 2 more scores.
Yeah, I mean, he played a phenomenal game. They were kind of finally using him similarly to how we used Gifford in 2023 as the rover. A little closer to the line of scrimmage, a little closer to the box, kind of using him on some robber coverages like we talked about last week. Yep. Kind of dropping back into a rat position as well. I was really impressed with Donovan Jones and Andrew Marshall. Those guys are the real deal. This secondary is legit.
100%. And I've always been a big Singleton fan because you got to have psychos like that on your defense. The guy's, he loves contact. He's a hell of a football player, and he just loves football. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a big Singleton guy, and glad to see him really have a nice day yesterday.
It was good to see Cam Lenhart.
Yeah,
going again. He
had one play where he got put on skates. I remember one. I watched it because I'm always watching for him because I'm a big Lenhart guy. And there was a play he got put on skates pretty bad, but other than the one play that was pretty rough, he played well, play in, play out, and had some nice splash plays too.
I was just saying, Cam had a sack for 10 yards. Elijah Judy had a sack for 10 yards. Williams Nwaneri had 1.5 sacks for 17 yards. Javin Wright had a nice game yesterday, leading the team in tackles. He ended up with half a sack for 5 yards, but also 3 other tackles for loss. And then, that's math. That's how we get to 4. So we're good. 4 seconds.
One of the things that stood out to me defensively, too, is it looked like when Butler talked about over the past week, the physicality of practice, the violence of the bye week practices. I think that we finally matched that intensity that we played with last year on the defensive front. It looked like we were able, because of the physicality, it looked like we were able to get back more to that 2-gap style of playing defense on the interior and allowing our ends just to flow freely to pursue plays. It didn't look – we weren't jumping through gaps, missing assignments. Shavers played a great game yesterday because the defensive line kept him clean for the most part.
Another thing is, Gary, no, it was not Shavers. That was actually Javen Wright.
That's what I was going to – had that one highlighted, ready to go.
Which is the next guy I want to talk about, if we can real quick. Yeah. Is Javen Wright played an outstanding football game. Awesome game from him. And defense is not. Is it complicated this level? Of course it is. However, are there still the basic tenets of being, mobile, hostile? What is it? What is it?
Agile.
Yeah.
Mobile, hostile, and agile.
Yeah. What is pain?
Exactly. As a defensive guy, a lot of it, you have to know where you're supposed to be. You have to know your assignment. Yeah, all that is true, but a lot of the games just kind of being a little off and kind of loving just basically just take another man and put him where he doesn't want to go. Whether that's a running back coming off the edge and putting his ass in the fucking dirt. Oh, sorry. Or if it's a quarterback and he's looking downfield and you put him down, or if it's an offensive tackle like we were talking about earlier where Pritchett got beat by that speed power combo, that's a lot of what defense is. And Vinny Shavers, one of my favorite players I've seen in this university in a long time, that shows you the power of an uncluttered mind. There was a play last year, no, not to get off track, where he was a spy, right? And he kind of dropped back and he was spying the quarterback. And the offense, I don't even remember what game this was, but the line kind of spread open and he just kind of was there spying the quarterback, and he kind of just saw an opportunity and he just took off and made a sack. Like, that's what you need as a defensive player. So big Vinny Shavers guy. Javen Wright, yeah, he's a 20-year senior. Yeah, he's like probably almost my age, whatever. I don't care. He's a good player. Good games from those guys. And also nice to see Winery looking really good and Lenhard getting his. And defensively, I actually was really impressed. I know we gave up 28 points, but on what was the time possession?
I got you.
No, we had to have gotten dominated.
I was going to say, I don't want to speak out of turn and be wrong, but it had to be lopsided.
I've got it somewhere. Somewhere. Uh, 33-24 for them, 26-36 for us.
That fourth quarter probably evened things out a tad.
Yeah, I like TSD. Strong side.
The third quarter, they had the ball for almost 10 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
As we're talking about defense, it reminded me of something I wanted to cover, the PFF grades.
First quarter, too, by the way. They had the ball as long, not to throw you off, Huss, but they had the ball longer in the first quarter than they did in the third quarter, speaking of Michigan State. So it's just we didn't care because we had 14 points on the board and they didn't have any.
Winning cures.
So, yes, you want to talk about some player grades?
Pull up the offensive. Actually, we'll start with the defensive PFF grades, if you will.
I'm going to show this one because this is the one I had ready.
All right. So, to piggyback off what we were talking about last week with my disdain for PFF, looking at these grades, Gunnar Gatula, Elijah Pritchett grading out the highest on the entire offense. And then looking at down here, you got Luke Lindenmeyer at 17. You got Raiola at 19. You have Carter Nelson, Heinrich Harburg at 11 and 12, kind of getting into the, just the average, middle of the pack, the mean here. Looking at this thing, I just want to know, what is your grading criteria, PFF? Are you grading things so arbitrary that it doesn't make any sense? I mean, you got Isaiah Hunter at 4. I agree. Big play. But then Turner Corcoran comes in rotationally as a 6th offensive lineman, and he's graded that high. Is there a threshold of X amount of plays played so it's, you don't have statistical outliers on either end of the plot? And looking down here as well, Ja'Cory Barney at 13. Greg, can you pull up what Ja'Cory Barney's just offensive stats were?
I can do that. Be more than happy to. Ja'Cory Barney had 2 catches for 47 yards.
Okay, 2 catches, 47 yards, including a play that completely flipped the complexion of the game. Now, momentum's not going to be accounted for in an empirical grading scale. They're talking about a grading scale, as a coach would do on Sundays in the meeting room, is about, did you execute the assignment correctly? You knew who to block. You knew what route to run. Did you finish the play? Those two things coincide for an overall composite grade. So looking at this thing, I'm just puzzled by what their criteria is, especially offensively. I agree with Emmett Johnson being number 3. I defended Elijah Pritchett earlier, and I talked about Gatula's work that he was doing on the backside of the duo runs to allow Emmett to cut back. But just looking at this thing, I'm like, what's their criteria? I guess I'm going to have to dig more into it to see if I can find some answers. But all that, I do not think accurately depicts what the offense put out there on the field for who were the biggest contributors to a victory.
Bubba, when you told me that Colin Miller graded high every week on PFF, that was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah,
I
lost all the time.
I respect every guy that puts their pours their heart and soul into the and puts it out there on the line every week for the Big Red. But that might have been the most frustrating player I've ever seen play at this university to watch, besides maybe Joe Daly. And the fact that he graded anywhere near high is showing you how flawed this system is.
Here's a blast from the past, a name from yesteryear, Courtney Grigsby.
Courtney Grigsby. Severe. His only issue was being too damn short.
Yeah, 5'9".
Yep.
But
now, PFF is supposed to show how well they execute their assignment for the position only.
I agree. That's what they're supposed to do. But two things are at play. One, they don't know the grading criteria as it pertains to what the specific scheme is. And then the other part of it with PFF is they're completely arbitrary in what they call executing their assignment.
Right.
If you're out of position and the play works, okay, and it's like you can't overlook in victory what you wouldn't tolerate in defeat.
Yeah.
You can't do that. These are things that are drilled all week in practice, installed over the offseason, practice in fall camp. Executing your assignment is part and parcel proprietary to that specific system that you're in. So there's stuff where it's like, okay, why didn't Emmett step up in pass protection? Oh, well, they might not have had him, blocking that. He might have been scanning outside in, inside out. Can't see where his eyes are at on the field. You don't know what's going on in the meeting room. So that's where, as much as, I talk about scheme on here, a lot of times I have to give players the benefit of the doubt on things. Why didn't he do this? Well, might not have been taught that way. Might have been asked to do something else. By and large, football is kind of like the schematics in football are kind of like the definition of pornography. You know it when you see it. And so knowing it when you see it is one thing, but there's always that doubt that creeps in that you have to go, well, that might not have been what they wanted him to do on the play. Now, if I see a lineman pull the wrong way on a trap play, yeah, I know it's a busted play. Unless they're running a bash sweep or something like that, wrong way, misdirection run. PFF is trash. I will die on that hill. Love you, Chris Collinsworth. You're my favorite announcer in football, but I can't stand PFF.
I think one of the bigger issues with PFF is, like you said, they have Turner Corcoran in here listed as the number 5th ranked player for Nebraska's offense yesterday as a 6th offensive lineman. The quarterback, the guy who's in there every play, is buried at the bottom of the chart.
Yeah, what was Dylan's completion percentage, Greg?
I got you. I'm so happy you asked me these questions. 2/3. Crap. 66.6%.
Okay, 66%. That's efficient enough. I don't think that's deserving of a grade of 45.8.
No, 16 to 24.
Yeah, that's efficient enough for the situation that we were in.
Right.
Are we gonna put sacks squarely on him now? There's a part of him holding on to the ball too long, but is he getting graded based on that? He didn't play his greatest game, but I don't think he graded out that poorly.
I agree.
Now, defensive side, Hoss.
Defensively, I agree with some of these, but then I start going further down the list, and I'm like, Elijah Judy really did a nice job of creating displacement. He had an impact on the game. And then Donovan Jones played a really fantastic game as well. But you want to tell me that Rex Guthrie in the secondary graded out that high? I'm a big Guthrie guy. But if, like the one comment said, you're not supposed to, compare across positions of PFF grades, then why do they rank them this way? Why do they have it like a class rank where, you're looking at your grade on the wall and seeing where you're at on the bulletin board outside of a lecture hall? Because there are a lot of guys on this list who played a really good game. Vincent Shavers graded at only a 20. He had an impact on the game. Somebody said it best in the comments. Levante David would have graded out at a 12 because he freelanced every damn play.
Yeah.
Plays.
100%.
So I look at this list and, like, to quote he's not dead, but the departed from Stillwater, Mike Gundy, it's garbage.
And again, you mentioned Shavers. Shavers was second on the team. He had 9 tackles.
That's being in position.
And
That's
also
your assignment.
Making splash plays.
Yeah.
Jameer Khan, this is a huge play, certainly, but he had the blocked punt.
Deshaun Singleton checks in at 10.
Yeah.
Really? You know?
2 interceptions.
Get the fuck out of here. I know I'm cussing more than usual on the show tonight, but Deshaun Singleton was not our 10th. How many of you play D1 football? Well, I did not play D1 football.
Yeah, I've never claimed to.
I did play college football. I didn't play D1 football.
But also, we're not complaining about the players. We're complaining about this arbitrary ranking system.
Yeah.
Also,
some statistician sitting there. Just
to be honest, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Brad, love you, dog.
You ever been to a restaurant and you know that the steak tastes like shit? Are you a chef?
Are you a butcher? Or are you no? It's what is that from Tommy Boy? Like,
I could shove my head up the cow's ass, or I could take the butcher's word for it.
Yeah, like, I mean, dude, like, it is what it is. Like, this is, I know I was talking to a friend of mine today, and he made a comment about everyone hating on Dylan for the Mahomes cosplay and whatever. And he's like, why is that even a factor? The guy's a hell of a football player. Mm-hmm. I was like, right. Football, my friend. And he was a college baseball pitcher. No one's asking him for his credentials. Like, no, I don't want to. No, why are we doing this? Every week I get baited into this. I'm becoming known as the fuck Iowa guy now.
Hey, let's save all that for the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
I was talking about tonight at dinner about how pathetic their program is historically, and how the fact that even to think that their program is anywhere near the regal high-end programs, like the top 10 programs in, Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska's not at the top, but like Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, whatever. And then you have like that tier of football program, like Iowa, makes you want to throw up. I'm not going to put them much higher than Kansas and Iowa State. They're shit. Fuck Iowa. I agree. Move on. I'll talk about this all day. I hate.
It's going to be a very special show leading up the weekend before Thanksgiving, because this is just going to be. I'm just going to sit back and Jake just take over and just run Iowa's program.
That episode can go like 2 hours.
I mean,
I have the entire week of Thanksgiving off work, so that episode can go 2 hours.
When you talk about Nebraska and Iowa, you're not even talking about football. You're talking about good versus evil. You're talking about like the United States standing for freedom and liberation, and the Soviet Union, which is oppressive and dark and horrible. That's what you're talking about when you talk about Nebraska and Iowa. Fuck Iowa. I hate everything they stand for, except Cooper DeJean and Caitlin Clark. I love both of them, which is actually the nicest thing I will ever say about Iowa.
Well, I still want to hire Brian Ferentz to coach our offense.
No. That is like bringing a Soviet KGB higher level operative into your government. You cannot do it.
Hey, we backed Bin Laden in 80.
That was before he was a terrorist. I'm not even going to get into. We're not doing this.
That's like the Pope who baptized coffee and said anything this good should be allowed. So, Kaylee says, "Love our defense. We're number 1 in opponents' yards per game and yards per pass. Number 3 in opponent completion percentage. OSU wasn't number 1 because of a prolific offense, but a dominating D." So,
yeah.
Well, speaking of defensive performance, got a nice test this week against Maryland. who evidently can't run the ball to save their lives. So
but they get after the opposing quarterbacks.
Get right game.
You know.
What were you saying, Greg?
They get after opposing quarterbacks.
They do. They rank second in the country in sacks per game.
That's not a
scary.
good matchup. That's scary. That is scary.
Well, before we turn the page and start talking about Maryland, let's look at some of our starred comments. Brian says, not sure why it took us so long to throw a screen with the quarterback pressure or quick plants behind the rush.
Agree 100%.
Can't agree more with that. Absolutely.
And again, one of those screens went for big yards and a one-shoe touchdown by an Isaiah Hunter.
Dude, where is Brian at every week, by the way? Brian, dude.
You're bringing it today, man.
Freaking bringing it, man. You're crushing it. Like, I agree with everything Brian says.
Also important, let's not overlook the block that Justin Evans had on that play to help spring Hunter, which was a nice makeup from the boneheaded error, mental error, the emotional error that he had earlier in the game. Let's see. James Borman says Dylan had a good throw to Barney. He drove that ball into the wind instead of his normal loft.
Rip it up the seam.
Yeah, that's what's called a rail shot, and that was a nice throw.
Or what we like to say, let her rip, tater chip. Let's see. Speaking of Dylan, Kaylee says the man does have the 5th highest completion percentage in the nation, so it could also be a case where he feels he can make it happen even when there's nothing.
Yeah, because he can, because he's a special player, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
But you got to know when you got to just tuck the ball and run.
I agree. I do. But he's trying to make a play happen downfield. And I respect that.
Keep the ball in play.
He's trying to keep the ball in play.
Mr. Borman also says, would it have been good to get TJ some snaps in the heat of the game to see how he reacts to pressure? If Dylan keeps taking a beating, we're going to need the kid.
Not in this game.
No, not in this game. I thought about it at one point yesterday, and it was like, it's not like we're breaking down in the red zone and you need that threat of the quarterback run. I think it would have shattered his confidence, to be honest with you.
Not only would it have probably been something kind of weird with the dynamics of the confidence and who's leading the team, whatever, because let's make no mistake, Dylan is, I'm assuming, viewed by his teammates as one of the leaders of the team, especially offensively, especially the way he carries himself. You don't want to take him out for the optics and whatever, and not in that game. No, not in that game. You leave Dylan in, you let him win you the game.
Hey, speaking of it, do you guys think it's funny when they actually show the tunnel walk, like, and they always show the team running out, like, man, I don't know if it was just overly emphasized yesterday or everybody else was just a little bit gun shy, but Dylan was out 10, 15 yards ahead of anybody else. Did anybody else note that?
I didn't notice it.
I didn't notice it.
All right. I will not inquire any further, make any mental gymnastics about the situation.
Well, no. I think that's actually a warranted thing because it makes you kind of wonder if Dylan thinks of himself a certain way or if the team thinks of him a certain way. Right? Like, no, that's not just because we didn't notice it doesn't mean it shouldn't be talked about. Mm-hmm. Because now that you say that, it kind of makes me wonder.
He's sprinting out ahead of everyone else on the tunnel wall? Yeah. Oh, he's done that every game.
Right.
Has he done that every game?
Yeah, he's done that every game.
I haven't noticed it.
It's not quite giving off Jamie Tart vibes from any of you Ted Lasso fans, but I do feel like it's I don't know. I don't want to call it borderline narcissistic, but it does seem unusual that he's so far out in front of the team.
Well,
all quarterbacks are narcissists.
I stole it right out of.
And you have to be to play that position effectively.
You know, Warren Moon.
Hardest position all of sports to play.
You know, Warren Moon wore number 1 and was very vocal about why he wore that number because he talked about himself as he is the guy. He is the quarterback and whatever. And, you know, Warren Moon's one of the greatest by the way, you want to talk about underrated quarterback?
Doesn't get talked about enough anymore.
Warren Moon, phenomenal quarterback. Doesn't get talked about ever, even though he should. The team state.
You don't have to read it out loud.
Dylan, yeah. For one thing, Dylan actually looks pretty in shape.
Yeah. He's not tubby like he was at 245 last year.
No. And he's moving around pretty well. Credit where it's due. I think he did his part getting his body right.
You know, one thing, all the talk about Dylan, I know, we've been critical of him today, not overly critical, just pointing out things he could have done better, what's on him, what's not on him. Like you said, Jake, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, but it doesn't make him immune to some criticism from time to time.
No.
In fact,
in the opposite. In fact, I think it means he should probably be subjected to more criticism, which if you ask him, knowing the kind of man he is, I bet he would tell you he embraces that shit because he should, because he's being paid $3 million a year to be one of the premier quarterbacks in the country. I think it's a crime that he's not being acknowledged as one of the better quarterbacks in the country with his completion percentage, his stats, and all that. The guys, I still don't, I'm looking around the country and people are talking about these quarterbacks. I'm like, we're not talking about Dylan.
Yeah, we're talking about Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. Nice player. Don't get me wrong. Nice player.
Nice player, yeah.
That's about it, and Dylan's not getting his due, and I think it's a little bit of a Nebraska bias against him. What's Nebraska done? I think if we were to close out October going 4-0 and we're 7-1 heading into USC and get a big win there, I think you'll see the conversation start to pick up.
I think you would have seen it if we would have beat Michigan at all. Even I don't care what it would have looked. If we would have beat Michigan, which was one of the finer performances a quarterback has had that I've seen in my lifetime, and we lost. Being sacked 7 times, doing what he did to keep us in the game. Not to throat
300 yards passing.
Yeah, not to throat goat Dylan here, like I seem like I probably am, and I'm sure the fans are probably thinking like, oh, whatever. Listen, I've been openly critical of him on this show for a long time. Yeah. I am not like a Dylan purist type of guy at all. I'm going on what I see and what I know about the game of football and what I see every week. Even yesterday wasn't his greatest performance. Dylan is a fantastic football player. He should be a first-round draft pick.
Kaylee says if Dylan was starting for Texas, they wouldn't have 2 losses. If he were starting for Georgia, they'd still be undefeated. If he were starting for Iowa, I wouldn't be talking about him.
Now, I'll say this to kind of flip
the end of that
things around a little bit. I do think that as good as Dylan is, it's not the fit. Nebraska and him aren't good fits for each other stylistically. And I know it's going to sound weird on the surface, but with the flaws we have personnel-wise, we would be better off with a running quarterback. I get that people are clamoring for that in the chat. But you don't pass up having a generational talent like this.
If Dylan was starting at Texas, they would be undefeated.
Yeah. Like I pushed back last year on calling him generational. That Michigan game made a believer out of me a couple weeks ago. It's one of those things where would we probably be better off and it would look smoother if we had a runner at quarterback? Yeah, because we, have to scheme around some weaknesses. But you don't pass up having a guy like this on your roster. So when people start gnashing their teeth about running quarterback, just enjoy having this guy because he's the real deal.
Yeah, enjoy having him while he's here. He's not going to be here forever, and he's a special player.
Yep.
Well, talking about his understudy, we mentioned Trey Taylor a little while ago. Nebraska Rascal says Trey Taylor ranked now number 36th overall, right on the cusp of being a 5-star.
Yeah, I think it's the top. Is it the top 35 that get 5 stars?
I don't know.
I thought that I saw something. I could be mistaken that 5 stars just the top 35 players in the country is what I thought I saw. That's like the cutoff, and then everyone after that's a 4-star. At least like the most recent, like it used to be more arbitrary, but now it's just a line in the sand. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be.
They get 6 stars if they play in the Tokyo Dome. It's a deep cut reference that very few people get that,
But Trey Taylor, I think, is on the borderline, regardless of whatever the cutoff arbitrary bullshit is. He is a borderline 5-star quarterback. Kid's a phenom.
And he's only a junior. So.
Yeah, we got Dayton next year.
Yep.
Glad we don't have Jet Tamala. That would suck if Jet Tamala was committed to us. I'm glad we have Dayton instead.
Let's see.
I feel much differently about that one.
No, I'm trying not to.
Oh.
I love the guys. Oh, Coach Eck is my spirit animal. Yeah, Coach Eck
was all over the punt block. Then of course there was the punt return that got called back for the block in the back, which we talked about. I do think that before the end of this year, Nebraska, specifically Ja'Cory Barney, will in fact run back a punt.
He's going to win us a game in a tight spot.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go one step further. I think he runs back more than one this season. Okay. Coach Eckler, the fucking man. Yep. Love the guy. That's the kind of guy that's a hard ass when you as a coach, and you kind of hate him sometimes. But he's real. He's a real guy, and that's the guy you want to play for. Michael Rose-Ivy put on Twitter today. I don't know if anyone remembers Michael Rose-Ivy.
Oh yeah, awesome
player, by the way, and just a really good dude.
Actually, he does really good breakdowns.
He does.
Yeah, he does. Michael. He's not going to see this. Why would I think he's going to see it? He's not going to. But if he ever were to, Michael Rose-Ivy's one of my favorite Huskers in recent memory for sure. Love the guy. I think he was underrated because he was like a borderline 5-star and, didn't go to the NFL or whatever, but he was a really good player in Nebraska.
Had some injury issues.
Yeah, had some injury problems, but an awesome guy. He shows up on Herd at Sports, their show they do all the time. And he actually posted a clip of, I don't know if he responded to it or if he posted it, but of Eckler just celebrating with the special teams unit at one point. And he was like, man, I would have killed to have played for this guy.
I don't know if it's the same video, but Gary Pierce says there's funny video of Eck on the sideline after the punt block and score.
Yes, that's the same clip. And
just think that sorry, Jake.
Go ahead. Dude.
I was just going to say, just think if we never got rid of Ed Foley, we'd be talking about him being a reason we lost yesterday.
We would have. And again, like I don't want to not talk about how the punting itself was pretty bad.
Yep.
We have to acknowledge that the punting was bad. Nothing against Archie Wilson, nothing against, you know what I mean? But the punting was bad.
It was also into the wind. Let's.
Yep.
I'm aware of that, but it was bad. Like you have to at least acknowledge that. With all the positives, you have to acknowledge the negatives, and the punting was poor.
Because if we lost that game, we'd be talking about it.
Right. I mean, 17-yard punt at one point. Punting was bad. But the return game was awesome. The
sky kick call to get it, just kick it as high as you can and get that wind to catch it, swirl it around. The old Bill Belichick sky kick. Beautiful to see that executed.
That was slick. That was a slick one, but
I don't even have a problem with the fake punt. Everyone linebacker was in punt safe. That thing was so close to popping. Honestly, might even pop for about a 30-yard gain.
You talk about just a great play on the punt return team. One guy made a hell of a play. No, I saw everyone shitting on that call on social media, and it pissed me off. I like the call.
Yep, I like the idea to try to steal the possession, get momentum back on your side.
100.
Let's see. Brian says that special teams have left 1 to 2 wins on the table annually for 8 years. Nice to see we finally adjusted. And then this was the last starred comment that I had from earlier. Tom on Facebook says, defense made plays when it counted. For the rest of the season, wins may come down to optimizing the players and getting the players into the best position to make the plays. We do have some good players on defense.
You are who you say you are at 5 games in. Now it's all about develop as much as you can in the season, scheme around your flaws, protect your weaknesses.
Dude, I want to shout out Brian Bauer for having some freaking – I mean, I appreciate all the comments, obviously, but Brian, man, awesome comments tonight, dude.
Brian, if I was sitting in a bar, I'd buy you a beer.
I'd buy you a beer, dude. Man, crush it with the comments, man.
Brian, if I was sitting in a bar, I'd let you buy me a beer.
Is Brian a friend of the show, Greg, or is he? I know I've seen him before.
I mean, they're all friends of the show if they're here.
Everyone that's watching is a friend of the show, obviously.
They're just not best friends of the show. There's only one of those.
Man, yeah. I'm just saying, man. Brian, dude, join us every week, man.
Well, best friend of the show, Josh. I was honored enough to break bread with him and Greg.
Yeah. Boardman, yeah.
Let's see. So let's move on now. Greg on Facebook, not this Greg, but probably much more handsome Greg says, "Do we beat Maryland?"
Okay, so the spread opened as Nebraska 5.5 favorites. I'm not going to be pessimistic here. I'm going to be honest in what I believe. I am a gambler. I don't know if I've talked about it before on the show. That's no secret. I would not touch that game with that spread with a 10-foot pole. With the potential mismatch with Maryland's pass rush and what we've shown pass protection wise. Why am I blanking on where this is at Maryland? Yes.
Yes. This is actually the first true road game of the season.
To out myself is like not, I should have known. I did know that. But I didn't want to misspeak and be wrong. This is our first true road game. Do we beat Maryland? Yeah, we beat Maryland. I think we beat Maryland because I'm a homer and because I love Nebraska, and I think we're going to win every game we play. I will encourage everybody watching this right now to not probably put any action on this game.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. I'm not a gambler, but you don't know what you're going to get in this game because Maryland's got a decent record, but at the same time, they got a mobile quarterback that can sling it. They can't run the football to save their lives. So that bodes well for us from stopping the run, but we struggle with quarterbacks extending plays with their legs. They they're second in the country in sacks per game as a defense. We can't protect very well. So we'll win. If I'm going to change my prediction for this game, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to the last few minutes of the fourth quarter.
So let's go back to the beginning of the season. Haas, you said Nebraska would win 37-14, and you want to make a change.
Yeah. What's the over-under on this game, Jake? What's the total?
I don't know what it is. Let me look real quick.
Yeah, because basically, I have a couple of predictions in mind, but I want to hear the total first on where it's sitting at to make a little bit more of an informed decision, because I could see this game going a lot of different directions.
Over-under is 48.5.
48.5?
I'm looking at 47.5 on ESPN Bet Sportsbook.
I just went off AI from
I saw. See, I was thinking about 24-20 Nebraska, but I also think that some of the issues that we're having, I could see this turn into a little bit lower scoring of a dogfight. I'm going to go 17-13 Nebraska.
Yeah, see, FanDuel has it at 50.5.
Yeah, I'm going way under on the total. 17-13 Nebraska.
17-13. Wow. I don't agree. I think it's going to be more like a Michigan State type of game, personally. That's okay that we disagree. What I have, Greg, preseason?
41-20.
Yeah.
Now, to my understanding that, the week out weather forecast says 2-mile-an-hour winds and in the 70s. So take that with a grain of salt.
I think this is going to be –
go ahead, Jake.
I think it's going to be 45-31, high-scoring, Huskers win. Very similar to the last game we played.
I think that is, well, I'll just say it, bold.
Well, one of the things what I was going to interject with before you did your prediction, thinking about them being second in the nation in sacks, who have they really played, though?
That's true, and my prediction is stupid, and that's okay if it is. But
so I hate to do this, change it again, but I'm going to go a little bit. I'm going to bump it up a little bit. I'm going to say Nebraska 28, Maryland 20.
So who has Maryland played? That is the question. They have beaten Northern Illinois. They've beaten, I believe it's pronounced Towson. Towson. They beat Wisconsin. They lost to Washington.
Washington's good.
Yeah, they lost
24-20.
24-20. Yeah.
Washington's not getting the respect they deserve.
I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and Vegas doesn't agree with me. I might be way off on my prediction, but I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Oh, they also played Florida Atlantic. Sorry, that one didn't show up. Florida Atlantic the 30th of August and won that one 39-7. So,
yeah,
they've lost the only game against decent competition that they've had.
Yeah, I think Maryland's going to find out who they are on Saturday.
Yeah, I guess according to my prediction, I would say take Nebraska in the points or in the to cover, but man, it's a tough one.
Pitt can't even think about it. It's harsh in his mellow. Theater says fourth quarter Barney punt return for the dub.
I like it.
Love it.
Zero says 42-34.
Yeah, like the zero kind of is in similar to where I'm thinking. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think, if anything, nail the over if you're a gambler.
Gregory Stewart says, change your Penn State prediction while you're at it, perhaps.
Well, I had 20-10 on the loss, I think, preseason was what I had.
We'll cross that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Kaylee says, Maryland's strength is defense, but with no offense. They excel in a lot of ways, but suck in time of possession. We will overwhelm them for over 4 quarters.
Yeah, they don't run the ball at all.
No, Malik Washington is pretty much the extent of their offense.
Yeah,
plays with his legs.
Damn good guy to have leading your offense, by the way. Yeah. Malik Washington's damn good player.
We'll see. I've got Nebraska winning, of course. I think that when I finally sit down and do a score prediction, I'm going to split the difference between you guys. I'm going to go middle of the road. But we'll cross that bridge on Thursday night. Greg on Facebook says Nebraska 28, Maryland 21. Okay. And with that, gentlemen, unless there's anything else that you have to share about the Michigan State game or the Maryland game next week, we're going to try to get out of here.
Nope.
All I would say is at this point in the year, you got to view each game in isolation. Don't use the transitive property.
100.
The transitive property, is that a squared plus b squared equals c squared?
That's Pythagorean theorem.
I know. Quadratic formula?
No. Transitive properties.
I know what it is.
State beat so-and-so, who beat so-and-so, who beat so-and-so. Right. And it's like all this team down the line, somebody beat Alabama. It's like, so Shadow State's better than Alabama. No, right. It doesn't carry over game to game. Honestly, there's going to be different strengths, different weaknesses against different opponents. Only things that you can really make portable game to game is what you can control yourself.
I just want to put it out there, everybody. I'm pretty familiar with the transitive property. We're good to go. So, Haas, Jake, I appreciate you, men. I appreciate everybody who joins us here on a Sunday night. You could be spending this time with your family. Instead, you're spending it with us, and that's a sacrifice. And I question your sanity, but I do appreciate it. Appreciate all of you. So we have, again, another busy week of content for you here at Corn Nation, our various platforms. Tomorrow night, it'll be Monday Night Therapy with Minnie and Fred. On Tuesday, it'll be Huskers Happy Hour with Andy Ketterson. And then I'm back here at this very desk in this very chair Thursday night with Minnie, the 5 Heart Podcast. So make sure that you subscribe. You like this video, subscribe, make sure you ring that bell for notifications so that you never miss an episode. Yes, Jake?
No, I was pointing the bell.
Oh, hold on. There's a bell.
I don't know where I'm oriented, but I thought the bell was this way. That way.
Bell's down there.
There we go.
So that is it for this episode of Corn Nation's Overreaction. Nebraska wins. They are 4-1, 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. I think it was Brad in the comments who said, let's go undefeated in October. Sounds like a great plan.
Amen.
And we're already one game into that. So until next time, Greg, Hoss, and Jake, Corn Nation Overreaction. See you later. Go Big Red. Hoss.
What the hell's a terrapin?
Thank you, everybody watching. We couldn't do it without you, boys. Go Big Red. Fuck Iowa. Have a good night.